Shepherding is the word of the day, or at least of the evening, for these lessons. Again, in Easter for Saturday evening. We've got Jeremiah and John. And Jeremiah 31 is addressed, first of all, Jeremiah is talking to ye nations, the Goyim, the Gentiles, declared to the isles afar off. All right, so Gentiles. He that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him. So you nations, you've been mocking or making light of Israel, need to know that Israel is going to be gathered up again by their God to be kept as a shepherd does his flock. The Lord has redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. Good things. Therefore they shall come and sing in the heights of Zion, and shall flow together in the goodness of the Lord, for wheat and for wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and of the herd. Right? It's all this picture of imagery of a garden and of a herd or of a flock. No more sorrow. The virgin shall rejoice in the dance, right? Comfort. Satiate the soul of the priest with fatness, and my people will be satisfied with my goodness. So a good promise from the good shepherd to his flock. Now, shepherding, we get a picture of that, a restoration in John 21:15 to the end. It's the end of John's gospel. Very poignant. Again, remember John, probably in his old age writing this. Peter has died. The other son of Zebedee, James, died first of all the apostles. So the three closest friends of Jesus, Peter, James, John. Peter and John shared some more life together than they did with James. And then now Peter's probably gone on before in martyrdom, and John's, contemplating all of this in his old age. That's my thought, at least. So they've had the meal on the shore, the breakfast, Jesus' third appearing to his disciples. He has Simon Peter, Simon the son of Jonas, do you love me more than these? Said, yes, Lord. Now, what's interesting, the love here is different sorts of love in the Greek, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm hopefully remembering that correctly. Anyway, a call to feed my lambs, right? It's Peter is asked if he loves Jesus 3 times, including more than these, his peers, his fellows, his fellow men, including his fellow apostles, and then is given with feed my lambs, feed my sheep, and feed my sheep again. And 3 times Jesus asks him, Peter's grieved because this happens 3 times. The 3rd time, Jesus says, lovest thou me? And this keeps, if I'm remembering right, it descends down. Starts with agape, ends with even just a lighter or broader form of love. Anyway, what we're dealing with here now is ultimately a restoration of Peter to his office as apostle. An apostle, the core of the office of the apostle is he that testifies to the risen Christ, that testifies to Jesus. And Peter had denied Jesus 3 times, which is like a total betrayal of his office, right? It's the opposite of what an apostle is supposed to do. And so now Peter is restored to his office as an apostle. And not just that, he's going to help lead the apostles, as we know from Acts and other reports from church history. Now, Peter says, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. And good, feed my sheep, verily I say unto thee, when you were young, you girded yourself, walked whither you would, but when you are old, you shall stretch forth thy hands, and I shall gird thee and carry thee whither you would not. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify God. So Peter, I think John is looking back after Peter has died, looking to the martyrdom of Peter, getting girded by reaching forth his hand. Someone's going to take him, carry him off to a place of death, right? Nobody really wants to die. And this death that Peter has, this is going to be a martyr's death. It's going to witness to God, glorify God. And whereas Peter before failed in the clutch when Jesus was on trial to be condemned to death, right? And now Peter in the clutch is going to be faithful. And that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing to end on. for Peter. And when he had spoken thus, he saith unto him, follow me. Right? Again, this is an invitation to all of us, follow Jesus. And John again follows behind, just an observer. He's a contemplator. He's an observer, an eyewitness. This was John again. Lord, which is he that John, Peter seeing him said to Jesus, Lord, what shall this man do? And Jesus said, if I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me. Stay in your own lane, in a sense, right? Follow you. Just worry about following me. I'll deal with John. If John is going to live forever until I come back, that's fine. And John, of course, did live the longest, but the point also being that, it's not Peter's business to know that. Just follow Peter's business to follow Jesus. And then, of course, that started kind of a rumor that this apostle should not die. Yet Jesus said not to him, he shall not die, but if he tarry till I come, what has I done to thee? And in a sense, John's like, this kind of superstition said that, I would live to see Jesus' return. And obviously it didn't happen. And John kind of knew that didn't happen because you have to listen to what Jesus said carefully. His point was kind of mind your own business. You don't know that, and it's not yours to know. And John knows that, and he reports that to us, because John's dead, and Jesus isn't making any false promises. John doesn't want to put any doubt in our mind about Jesus being good on what he's promised. And then, of course, this is the disciple which testifieth of these things and wrote these things. So, right, he's been referencing himself the entire book, and now he said, by the way, that's me, right, writing down this book, and we know that his testimony is true. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books to be written, should be written. Interesting. The world's not big enough for Jesus. True. Not all the books even that can be written about Jesus. True. And then he just ends it with that, just the fullness, the moreness of Jesus. So I think it's a good thing to know, the plenitude of Jesus Christ. But also the restoration. He restores his people, and they get to enjoy a new creation. He restores Simon Peter to his office. He can restore us as well to our various offices as sons of Adam, daughters of Eve, priests, kings, prophets, for God's name. So that's something helpful to end on, and something that we should know and have in our mind as we approach the Lord's Day tomorrow in worship. So I'll leave you all with that for tonight. Good night.